Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Eric Bolling. Home improvement giant Lowe's is getting hammered by liberal and Muslim groups after the hardware chain pulled its ads from a Muslim reality TV show. Doesn't a company have the right to choose where and when it wants to advertise? Joining me now, American Islamic Forum for Democracy founder, Dr. and by the way, friend of the show, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Jasser, let's set it up for the audience in case they don't understand what's going on. There's a show called American Muslim. It portrays a Muslim family in America. There was an outcry by a group in Florida called Florida Family Association, who urged Lowe's to yank their ads from the show. Lowe's did, in fact, yank their ads from the show. And then there was the outcry from the Muslim and liberal groups who are saying, hey, that's not fair. Go ahead, sir. Is it fair or is it not fair for Lowe's to advertise where and when they want to?
Well, you know, it's interesting. You know, for one thing, I don't expect the show to please everybody. I mean, that I think is not the expectation. But on the other hand, it's interesting how these Islamist groups and Muslim so-called defenders of our freedoms are so upset about Lowe's expressing their own free speech, their own freedom to decide what they want to invest in and what they don't want to invest in. And yet a few years ago, when they were all up in arms about Fox's show 24 and how it was portraying Muslims badly and all as terrorists, they ended up having Kiefer Sutherland do an apology ad, which I found to be just terrible, and because it didn't want to portray Muslims badly. So on the one hand, when a show actually shows some of the true reality of concerns and fears of terrorism, etc., they balk and say that it's anti-Muslim. And then when there's a show that actually placates and anesthetizes Americans to some of the true issues that we're fighting from a radicalism, from a terrorism point, they don't want the other side to have the freedom to let America know that they don't want to invest in these types of apologetics. All
right, guys, I'm producers to roll this out from CARE, Michigan. Director Lowe's saying that Lowe's caved to bigotry. Take a listen to this.
I believe that Lowe's capitulated to bigotry and they showed cowardness. They had an advertising slot. They broke their contract to withdraw because of some right-wing evangelical bigots.
Dr. Jasser, you care to comment on that?
You know, it horrifies me as an American to hear this type of hyperbole where it's black and white. If somehow they decided, you know, this is not the type of programming we want to fund. They could do the same thing with Kardashians and other programs. They decided this is one they don't want to fund. And now all of a sudden they become bigots because they decide that this show, I mean, if TLC's programming people had asked me what type of show should we have, I would say, you know, right now the vast majority of Americans are concerned about radicalization, about the ideology of terrorism and political Islam, and they want to know how we're going to fight that. This show doesn't fill up its bandwidth with that. So I think it's very appropriate for companies like Lowe's to say, you know, that might not be the right thing for us to invest in. And that simple decision now, they're getting targeted by not only CARE, but the Russell Simmons of the world and other far-left activists that are looking for any opportunity to use us as a football against the right. They simply want to say that they're bigots, when in fact they just made a wise business decision. And, you know, as a result, they're actually opening the conversation about what we should be talking about when we talk about Muslims and Islam and the threat.
Right, and you point out Russell Simmons, also Mia Farrow, and also we read today that the CARE Michigan is actually mulling over whether or not to call for a boycott of Lowe's, but that's really not the American way. We don't boycott things. We voice our opinions, but not necessarily boycott. Doctor, before I let you go, what do you think of the series American Muslim as a series? Does it accurately portray what's going on in America?
You know, some of the things I think are probably interesting to see, the fact that Muslim families deal with whether to wear the hijab and whether to have a dog and some of these little cultural issues. But, I think that that's not going to help Americans feel more comfortable or less fearful of the Muslim next door. What they want to know is, what are we doing? Why isn't there more of a voice against terrorism, against the threat, and the brotherhood growing, and not only domestically but globally? And are we fighting these ideologues within the mosque? I mean, Showtime actually, Eric, has a program called Homeland that is addressing these issues much more clearly, and interestingly it's not being attacked because it does cover both sides of it, whether imams work with or against the FBI in a more dramatic fashion. And those are the types of programs that I think will break down walls of fear rather than these culturally anesthetized type shows that really just are more of pop culture rather than anything that helps, I think, break down walls of fear.
All right, that's Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Let's bring in tonight's all-star panel. On the left, attorney Joy Jackson, and on the right, Jason Matera, editor of Human Events magazine. Joy, you listen to it, and Dr. Jasser, a Muslim himself, says probably not the right show, but disagrees with the Muslim group CARE, disagrees with Russell Simmons, disagrees with Mia Farrow, that we shouldn't boycott Lowe's, or they shouldn't boycott Lowe's just because of what they pulled an ad. They have a right to pull their ads.
Well, they do have a right to do that, but with that said, I'll disagree with the fine doctor. This is not about a business decision. Business decisions are generally made beforehand, okay? The fact is they made a business decision. That business decision was to invest in this program. As a result of getting some pressure, they kowtow and now they have to pull out. That's not a business decision. That's being a coward and not standing up for what you're going to do. Don't you think they have people evaluate the program to begin with?
But do you boycott companies that you think made what in your characterization as cowardice decisions?
Look, I think that I purchase products based on the quality of the product I'm purchasing, but I do like to think, Eric, that the purchaser has a decision to make, and that is if they don't think the manufacturer is socially responsible and that manufacturer doesn't address or otherwise sympathize with their issues, they have a right not to buy the product. So if people want to boycott, that's not anti-American. People can do whatever they want to do. That's America.
Jason, see, now I disagree with Joey. I agree with him on everything he said except for the boycotting part. Look, we have a right to protest. It's clearly defined. Boycotting isn't illegal, but it's not American.
Well, I actually want to see this show now. I'm interested how many burqa babes are on this reality TV show. But, Eric, this is strange because I'm actually going to agree with Joey here. While it's certainly the right of Lowe's to pull their advertising from the show if they choose to, it's the right of potential clients or customers to say, listen, you pull this ad, we don't know if you were kowtowing, we think you were kowtowing. They can go with the hyperbole and say it was bigotry and so forth. We don't know if that's the case. But it's fine if you want to boycott. I mean, we've seen over the years Disney has its gay day, and there are a lot of Christian groups that said we're going to boycott Disney. Safeway doesn't allow the Salvation Army and their kettles out on their property anymore. A lot of people were upset they were going to boycott. So I think if you're really offended by a company's particular actions, it is your right to go and say, I don't want to purchase the product. In fact, I'm going to encourage other people not to purchase that product as well.
Well, aren't we getting a situation where the companies, if they change their mind about some programming that they had wanted to advertise on because it went in a different direction that they were portrayed, that they were sold to, now they're going to be at risk of boycotts by various left and right fringe groups?
But you know what it is, Eric? It's about this. It's about freedom of choice. It's about a free market economy. I can purchase or not purchase any product I want, and other people are welcome to do the same thing. And so I think that it's important.
That's
not only
different than boycott, though, Joey. You know that
it is different. It is different, but here's where it's the same. Where it's the same is that the consumer maintains the choice, and if the choice is by a group of people to believe that the manufacturer is not socially conscious or socially conscious to the extent that they would be in sync with what they view it, then you know what? Boycott it, they must.
We're going to leave it there. I shortchanged you one, Jason. Next segment's going to be big. I'm going to go to you first on it. Coming up, Al Gore must be crying in his carbon neutral.